slashes the EPA.
Can we really just put a guy in the head of the EPA who doesn't believe in the EPA? I mean, that's a bridge too far. You know, even Bush wouldn't do something like that. No, absolutely you can. And if we don't believe in climate change, then why should we fund anything about it? And of course, you know, the drooling idiots who vote for him, they don't generally believe in it either, or they don't care. It's not immediate. You know you can see? A wall. Big, beautiful wall. You know what else you can see? Cruise missiles firing off a warship at night. It's beautiful. You know, I mean, these fucking newscasters were like coming over this when it was going on the other day.
I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons.
These things you can see. What you can't see is climate change. Even a giant event, a flood, a storm or something, they happened before. So it's very easy for people to go, oh, come on, that's just the weather.
I know you real Americans hate being called stupid, but you gotta meet me halfway and stop being stupid.
You can't link one event to climate change the same way you don't know which Cheeto you ate gave you cancer. You know, somewhere along the line you ate so much shit that the toxicity could not be handled by your body and you got cancer. But you don't know which one it was.
Democrat.
All right, so I agree and disagree. I'm uncomfortable with calling them stupid just because they disagree with the climate change thing. Yes, I agree with it. Yes, I've been on here. I wouldn't necessarily say losing my shit about it, but it's an important issue. But you're not going to get those people on your side calling them idiots. That's the first point. Second point, I agree with them that because it's somewhat amorphous, like it's almost conceptual at this point. Yes, you've seen a flood. Yes, you've seen an earthquake. You can see all these other natural disasters. But this full well depends upon research and data, not necessarily something you can tangibly touch. So those people are going to have to trust somebody else in order to believe in this particular thing. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I don't necessarily think that's a horrible analysis, but it doesn't go far enough. There's more to that. From a logical perspective, just purely logical. Let's say you had 10 tasks to accomplish. How do you make the determination on how to get through those 10 tasks? Now, ultimately, you would usually rank those things in degree of priority. What are my priorities? What's first? What's second? What's something that's fast I can get through? What's something that maybe a more weightier or heavier for me to get through? And you set your list accordingly. Now, I've made this point before. The richest country on the planet, half of the country is in massive amounts of debt. Or not even just massive amounts of debt. Also, poverty. Literally, poverty. 66% of the country. If there was like a $500 car note, they couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford it. Wages, for the most part, are stagnant or have gone down. Real wages. Productivity has spiked. But you have people working all of these jobs where they're expensive, booming. People are under stress. People are under stress. I mean, even people who are maybe in a middle-class lifestyle, that position is not secure. That is stressful. That is stressful. You know, you have situations of like, how am I going to get my kids clothing for school? How am I going to pay for that field trip? How am I going to make sure they have lunch? How am I going to get my own medication? All these things that circle around an individual. Now, those people, for the most part, their needs aren't being met, at least in the sense of a life of fulfillment. It's a life of responsibility and a life of difficulty. Half the jobs, more than half actually, are service jobs. Of all the jobs that came back after the crash, 95% were part-time or contract. You have literally an economy that's running off of service jobs, low-wage jobs. So the point I'm getting at is these people, for the most part, are looking at their environment and they're saying, I have too much shit to deal with than to deal with this climate change thing that's 50 years off. And now, if those people's needs were met, say for instance, there was a basic, universal basic income, then yeah, the pressure is off. That particular person knows for the most part they're going to eat. They know they're going to get their meds. They know the basic necessities of life are resolved. Yes, they can think about weightier issues at that point. But if you're talking about a situation where people are just struggling to make ends meet, and they have all of these responsibilities, just from a sense of priority, of importance, yeah, climate change is not going to be the first thing on that list. It's going to probably be down further on that list. If you want to change that, and if you want those people to be a little bit more incentivized or prioritized to have wider ideas, because like anything else, your perspective focuses to the thing that's most important to you. In this particular case, we run off of a capitalistic society. Everybody's trying to maximize profits. Everybody's trying to avoid scarcity, avoid lack, and not having. So right off the bat, just the basis of the society itself. Like I said, particularly when you get into this idea of poverty and this idea of just barely making ends meet, it demands a certain narrowing of focus to accomplish survival aims. To widen the gaze, to say, well, wait a minute, there is a wider reality, and part of that wider reality is climate change. No, I can't see it. No, I can't touch it. But the data is pretty clear that that's what's taking place. Calling them stupid is not going to get you there. Because technically, I don't think they're stupid at that point. I think those people are just functioning in a normal way. You may disagree with it, but you don't have their pressures. You're a joke man. You're making millions of dollars. You're perfectly okay. You're not in a situation where you're in any kind of scarcity or lack. You can have those big concepts. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that just because you're in scarcity or just because you don't have, you're not necessarily thinking that way. I'm making the point that it is a hell of a lot easier to think that way, to think about wider, expansive things, when you don't necessarily need your focus narrowed for basic survival. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, I believe in climate change. I think it's damn important. And in fact, I think it's a win-win. Even if it's proven to be wrong, so what? You're making your environment better. You're getting new jobs from clean energy and whatnot. I want clean air and clean water. Those are things I want. So even if it's proven to be wrong, I still get my clean air and my clean water, and I have a better living environment that's going to be more healthy. So yeah, I do believe it. But in their case, they're probably apathetic, but that apathy is just based off the desperation of the moment. Or at the very least, it's based off of them only really concerning themselves with the immediacy of their lives. Universal basic income. If you want those people to get more engaged in the political process and pay more attention to what's taking place, that will be one of the means to do it. That would definitely be one of the means. You need to release the pressure valve. If you release the valve, or at the very least release some of that pressure that's focused on survival, they will listen to stuff like this. They will. You just have to deal with their first needs.